If I had just one sentence to prolong someone's life, I'd say it without blinking. I eat this every day, and this simple thing can change everything. Believe me, this is not a gimmick or a small talk. I'm a doctor with over 30 years of experience. I've seen thousands of lives, people with strong hearts and clear eyes at 85. And those who, unfortunately, were already losing ground at 55, and every time I tried to understand why some fade while others seem to flourish with age, I was led to the same thought. There is a small accessible habit for everyone which works quietly day after day, like a quiet motor that sustains life. And now I'll tell you something that many underestimate. Longevity doesn't begin with expensive examinations and complex regimens. It begins with what we put on our plate and what we repeat daily, without heroism or overexertion. In my experience, it is precisely this quiet everyday routine that distinguishes those who stay in the game for a long time. And you know, the most important, the simplest but truly life-changing thing, I'll tell you at the very end. This is something I usually tell only my closest patients when we are alone. Why is this topic critical after a birth? Because in middle age, the body becomes like an intelligent but demanding instrument. It thanks for attention and immediately punishes carelessness. If at 25 you could forgive yourself a sleepless night and a quick meal, then after 60, every little thing, salt for dinner, unfinished water, rushing instead of breakfast, adds up months of well-being and years of life. And here is where our hero habit comes into play. I'll tell you about it in this video. It doesn't require money, but it does require respect. I beg you, don't ignore it. I'll tell you a story that amazed me. A 72-year-old man who had undergone major heart surgery came to me 3 months later with his eyes returning to life. He wasn't looking for a miracle pill. He simply made a single agreement with himself and began repeating it day after day. Within a week, his blood pressure had stabilized, and within 2, his sleep had returned to normal. A month later, he said something I still remember. "Doctor, I'm planning again." That's what a good daily habit does. It restores the ability to plan, and believe me, it can change your life. Don't think this is something exotic. I'm not talking about trendy powders or expensive miracle supplements. I'm talking about what's available at your local store and in your kitchen today. But there's a nuance, and it's crucial. It's important not just to know that it's beneficial, but to understand why, precisely in adulthood, it becomes protective for the heart, brain, and mood. We often chase quick results, not noticing that true power lies in rituals. Ritual is a bridge over the whims of the day. I've seen people who, by implementing just one morning habit, stop relapsing in the evening. How swelling went away, how clearer their skin became, how their light step returned. And yes, this is directly related to longevity, because longevity is not just a number of years, it's the quality of each day. And now another important point. Psychology and the body are 2 arms of one organism. After 50, any tiny victories in the kitchen become victories in the soul. You stop scolding yourself for weakness, because suddenly you see how simple things work out, and this feeling heals like medicine. When I say I eat this every day, I'm not just talking about the product, I'm talking about an attitude, a way to give yourself support. Please show this video to your parents or friends. Sometimes one calm explanation changes family habits and prolongs the life of an entire home, and you allow yourself to enjoy life as you did in your youth. Enjoy the morning light in the kitchen, the warm cup, the quiet clink of a knife and a cutting board, the feeling that you're taking care of yourself not out of spite of illness, but for the sake of life. If not yet, you and I have a chance to get that back, and I have a favor to ask of you. Watch this video to the end, because at the end, I'll reveal the key that connects all the recommendations into one simple system. It'll be a very short formula, but it will explain why healthy eating works for some people and not for others. I've seen it change lives quietly without fanfare, simply making a person stronger day by day, and today I'll share it with you. Believe me, it can change your life. Ready to go step by step? If so, I'll continue with the second part with background explanations and the first concrete story from my experience. You know, with age, not only our bodies change, but also the very logic of our bodies. If in youth it strove for development, then in mature years it increasingly thinks about preservation. It's like an old but sturdy house. If you take care of it, it will warm and protect you for decades to come, but if you leave it alone, it will begin to crumble from the inside, and we won't even notice how the cracks become too large. In my experience, after 50, most people experience an unnoticeable break. Strength doesn't recover as quickly, losing excess weight is more difficult, colds last longer. And all this isn't the body's whims, but its honest signal. Take care of me, I've already worked for your youth, now it's your turn to work for my old age, and this is where many make the main mistake. They continue to live by the laws of a 30-year-old, hoping that the body will somehow cope. It copes, but at a cost that you will feel in a few years. I remember a woman, a patient of mine, who was 68 years old. She had always been active, but in recent years she began complaining of fatigue and drowsiness. During the examination, we found no serious illnesses. But when I questioned her about her diet, it turned out that she, like many others, ate mostly the same dishes from her youth, often heavy, late in the evening, with almost no attention to detail. And it is in these details that the secret to longevity lies. As we age, our digestion slows down and our metabolism becomes more efficient. This means that every bite of food now functions differently. What used to be burned off in an hour can now be stored as excess weight or increase blood sugar levels. But there is another side. It is in adulthood that we can get maximum benefits with minimal effort if we know how to feed our body properly. That is why the habit I am talking about is so important. It works like a quiet regulator that gently keeps your body in balance every day. It is not a crash diet, not a fast, not a forbidden delicacy. It is a way to give the body exactly what it needs now, not 30 years ago. I have seen how, after introducing this habit, people's blood pressure dropped without pills, how their sleep returned to normal, how chronic swelling went away, and all this without debilitating restrictions. The key is to stop fighting your body and start cooperating with it. There's another important point, a psychological one. As adults, we already know the value of time, but we often forget that its quality directly depends on how we feel. When you take a small conscious step for yourself every day, whether it's a special food, the right mealtime, or a specific morning ritual, you signal to your body, I'm here for you, and your body reciprocates. Wisdom comes with age, but it can be strengthened by viewing your body as an ally. The habit we're talking about isn't just food, it's an act of care that restores energy, improves mood, and provides the very lightness needed for a long, full life. And in the next part, I'll tell you about the first concrete step, the first recommendation that helps not only your soul but also your physical well-being. This is something you can try tomorrow, and I'm sure you'll feel the difference. If I had to choose just one daily nutritional element for middle age, I would, without hesitation, name it a handful of fresh nuts. It might seem like there's nothing special about it. Ordinary nuts, which you can buy at any store. But this simple habit, repeated day after day, can become your quiet defender against dozens of problems that sneak up after breakfast. Why nuts? Let's look through the eyes of a doctor. After age 50, blood vessels become less elastic, the heart more sensitive to stress, and the brain more demanding of nutrition. Nuts are a concentrate of healthy fats and protein, B vitamins, magnesium, and antioxidants. They nourish the brain, lower bad cholesterol, improve heart function, and normalize blood pressure, and all this without pills. I'll tell you the story of one patient, Sergei Petrovich, 65 years old. He came to me complaining of fatigue, blood pressure surges, and memory problems. We prescribed medication, but I always add some small habits. I advised him, every day, a handful of different nuts, almonds, walnuts, hazelnuts, cashews, no more than a palm, but without fail. He was surprised. Doctor, that's all. I said, everything, but every day, a month. Later, he came back with noticeably more alert eyes. His blood pressure became more stable. The morning dizziness disappeared. But most importantly, he said, I stopped craving buns and sweets, and this isn't magic, it's biochemistry. The healthy fats and protein in nuts stabilize blood sugar levels, eliminating sudden energy surges and cravings for unhealthy snacks. There is one rule that many forget. Nuts should be raw or lightly dried, without salt, sugar, or glaze. Only in this they bring maximum benefits, and it's also important not to overdo it. A handful is not a bag. For a mature body, too many fats, even healthy ones, will be an unnecessary burden. How to instill this habit? It's very simple. Buy a small glass jar, pour the nut mixture into it, and place it in a prominent place in the kitchen every morning while making tea or coffee. Take your handful. Make it a ritual like washing your face or brushing your teeth. In a week you won't be able to do without it. And this is exactly the kind of addiction I approve of. Try it for at least a week, and you will feel the difference. Light energy without slumps, a clearer head, fewer cravings for sweets. And most importantly, you will know that you are giving your all every day. Give your heart, blood vessels, and brain what they need to function well for a long time. And here I want to hook you in for the next part, because the second recommendation I'll talk about isn't just food. It's something that not only helps the body, but also literally slows down brain aging, improving memory, attention, and the ability to enjoy life. If the first habit nourishes our body at the cellular level, then the second is a kind of daily brain exercise, and we're talking about walking daily at a brisk but comfortable pace for at least 30 minutes. You might think, "Doctor, that's so trivial," but believe me, in my experience, this simple, accessible habit for everyone has a tremendous effect, especially after 60. Why? It's simple. With each passing year, our brain becomes increasingly dependent on good blood circulation. Brain cells are the most voracious cells in the body. They consume up to 20% of all the energy we receive. And if we don't move, if blood flow is sluggish, the brain begins to starve. I remember one of my patients, Tamara Nikolaevna, 74 years old. She came to me complaining of forgetfulness, depressed mood, and difficulty sleeping. Medications were only partially helpful. Then I offered her a simple condition: go outside every day and walk at her own pace, but with a slight increase in breathing, and do this for at least half an hour. No phones, no rushing, no heavy bags, just walking and looking at the world around her. After 2 weeks, she noticed that she was sleeping better. A month later, she said, "Doctor, I've stopped losing little things. I've started reading books again and remembering the plot. It's not a miracle, it's physiology. Walking improves blood flow. The brain receives more oxygen and nutrients. Plus, it produces endorphins, the hormones of joy, which literally lubricate our neural connections, making them more resilient, and most importantly, walking reduces chronic stress levels. After all, stress is one of the main accelerators of brain aging. I've seen dozens of cases of people who, by starting to walk daily, not only improved their memory, but also lowered their blood pressure, reduced the dose of their heart medication, and stopped suffering from insomnia. There's one secret that few people talk about. It's better to walk in the morning or afternoon rather than late in the evening. The fact is that in the morning hours, our body resets its biorhythms, and sunlight helps synthesize vitamin D, which is important not only for bones, but also for brain function and immunity. If you live in the city and think you have nowhere to walk, don't look for the perfect spot. Even a simple walk around your house or a stroll around the neighborhood will be beneficial. The key is regularity. Don't wait until you have time. Make it a daily routine, like breakfast. In my experience, people who keep moving live longer and feel happier. Walking is not a sport, it's a way to tell your body and brain, "I want you to work long and smoothly." But there's another aspect that people often underestimate. It's not about what we eat or how we move, but about what we allow into our lives, and this can literally destroy a person if ignored. In the third recommendation, I'll explain what this is and how it stealthily steals years from even the most disciplined people. I often tell my patients, you can eat right, you can exercise daily, but all of this will lose half its power if there's one silent destroyer in your life: chronic sleep deprivation. Yes, sleep is the third, but no less important, pillar of longevity. We're used to perceiving sleep as something secondary, so if I don't get enough sleep today, I'll catch up tomorrow. But the body doesn't accumulate sleep. Every sleep-deprived night is a small blow to the immune system, the heart, and especially the brain. After age 50, these blows accumulate faster than in your youth, and we see the consequences within months. Memory deteriorates, concentration declines, blood pressure rises, the risk of stroke increases. I remember Nikolai Ivanovich, 63, a former engineer. He complained of fatigue, irritability, and a constant craving for sweets. When we began to analyze his lifestyle, it turned out that he slept an average of 5-6 hours a night, believing that older people don't need much sleep. This is a dangerous myth. After 3 months of working on his sleep schedule, he went to bed before 11 o'clock p.m., eliminated gadgets an hour before bed, and took a short evening walk. He lost 4 kilograms without dieting, stopped suffering from morning headaches, and said, "Doctor, for the first time in many years, I wake up without feeling tired." Why? Is sleep so important for middle age? At night, the body doesn't just rest. It regenerates cells, cleanses the brain of toxins, and regulates appetite and stress hormones. Without this, no nuts, walks, or vitamins will have the effect you are hoping for. I beg you, don't put this off. Sleep is not a luxury, it is an essential part of treatment and prevention of aging. If you sleep poorly, start with the simple. Go to bed at the same time, ventilate the room, remove bright lights, stop reading the news or watching TV before bed, even 15-20 minutes of silence before bedtime can reduce cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and here's the important thing. Sleep is what connects the first two recommendations. Healthy eating and exercise only work to their full potential when the body has time to recover. Without sleep, it's like fixing an engine every day without letting it cool down. Sooner or later, it will overheat. So the 3 simple steps that maintain peace of mind and clarity of mind are proper nutrition, a handful of nuts daily, daily walking, and a good night's sleep. All of this seems trivial until you realize that it is precisely in these trivialities that the secret to a long, high-quality life lies. And now, as I promised, in the final section I'll reveal the most important point that ties these tips together into a single system. It's not the product, not the exercises, and not the sleep schedule. It's what makes all 3 steps so much more effective and gives you a sense of control over your life. Let's gently but clearly remind ourselves once again of the 3 steps we've covered. First, a handful of nuts every day, like a quiet shield for your heart, blood vessels, and brain. Second, daily walking at a brisk but comfortable pace so your brain, heart, and mood work harmoniously. Third, adequate sleep without which no effort will yield the full result. All 3 tips are simple, but their simplicity is precisely where their power lies. When you repeat them day after day, they begin to work like a well-oiled orchestra. Nutrition provides materials for recovery, movement gets the blood flowing and nourishes the brain, and sleep consolidates the results and initiates deep cleansing processes. But I promised that I'd tell you the most important point at the end, and here it is. Everything we've talked about will work much better if you add mindfulness and gratitude for each day. Yes, it sounds too simple, but this isn't philosophy for the sake of philosophy. It's physiology. When you are grateful, when you notice that you've already done something good for yourself today, your cortisol levels drop, your blood pressure normalizes, your heart function improves, and most importantly, you begin to want to continue these habits because they bring joy, not a feeling of obligation. I've seen many times how people quit healthy habits because they perceived them as a burdensome obligation. But just change your perspective and everything changes. Try this. In the morning, while you're munching on your nuts, think, I feed myself with care. While walking, notice how the air fills your lungs. Before bed, say to yourself, I deserve this rest. These little thoughts are the glue that binds your efforts together, and as a bonus, I want to give you a little ritual you can implement today. It takes 3 minutes, but I've seen it transform people's lives. Before bed, sit down, close your eyes, and take 5 slow, deep breaths in and out. Count to 4 on the inhale and 6 on the exhale. This simple lengthening of the exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for rest and restoration. After this, you'll fall asleep more easily, and your sleep will be deeper. Take care of yourself. Your time is valuable at any age. And remember, even small steps can change your life for the better. You don't have to wait for Monday, New Year's, or a special occasion. Start today with a handful of nuts, a short walk, or going to bed on time. Let us know in the comments which of these tips resonates with you most, and please share this video with your family so they can also receive support and inspiration. Subscribe to stay up to date on new conversations about longevity, health, and the special joy we can give ourselves at any age.